The 1980s gave us iconic blockbusters, unforgettable fashion, and some seriously famous faces. But while some stars like Tom Cruise and Meryl Streep are still everywhere, others just kind of disappeared. In today's video, we're diving into 10 movie stars from the 80s who were once household names, but are now mostly forgotten. Phoebe Cates. If you've seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High, you definitely remember that pool scene. Phoebe Cates became an instant teen icon. She also starred in Gremlins and was everywhere in the early 80s. But by the mid-90s, she stepped away from acting completely. She chose to focus on her family and married actor Kevin Kline. Today, Phoebe runs a boutique in New York called Blue Tree and rarely appears in public. Judge Reinhold. Judge Reinhold was everywhere in the 80s, starring in hits like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Beverly Hills Cop, and Gremlins. He had that nice guy next door vibe that worked so well for comedies. But after the early 90s, his career slowed down, with only a few small roles and TV guest spots here and there. Andrew McCarthy. He was the dreamy, sensitive guy in Pretty in Pink and St. Elmo's Fire, a core member of the Brat Pack. Andrew McCarthy was a teen heartthrob, but once the 80s ended, his leading roles started drying up. Instead of chasing fame, he turned to directing and writing, and he's actually had a solid career behind the camera. He's directed episodes of Orange is the New Black and Gossip Girl, and even wrote a travel memoir. Ally Sheedy. Everyone remembers Ally Sheedy as the goth girl in The Breakfast Club or the brainy hacker in War Games. In the 80s, she was on fire. But by the late 90s, her career had cooled down. She took time to focus on her personal life and even did some teaching. While she's made a few TV appearances in recent years, she's mostly stayed out of the spotlight. Still, she's a cult favorite for fans of classic 80s teen films. C. Thomas Howell. C. Thomas Howell was the rebellious, cool kid in The Outsiders, and he starred in other 80s classics like Red Dawn and Soul Man. He had the looks, the charisma, everything. But controversy around some of his roles, like the racially insensitive Soul Man, hurt his image. Over time, he shifted to TV and smaller films, with occasional roles in shows like Criminal Minds. Jennifer Grey. Nobody puts Baby in a corner, but after Dirty Dancing, Jennifer Grey kind of vanished. Her 80s fame was massive, but her career hit a pause after a nose job that changed her appearance so much, even casting directors didn't recognize her. In later years, she made a comeback with Dancing with the Stars, which she won in 2010, and recently appeared in shows like Grey's Anatomy. Rick Moranis. Rick Moranis was the lovable nerd of the 80s, with hits like Ghostbusters, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and Spaceballs. He was everywhere, and then suddenly, he was gone. In the 90s, Rick stepped away from acting to focus on raising his kids after his wife passed away. Fans respected his decision, and for years he stayed off-screen. Recently, he announced a comeback and will appear in a new Honey, I Shrunk the Kids reboot. Molly Ringwald. She was the face of teen movies in the 80s, from 16 Candles to Pretty in Pink to The Breakfast Club. Molly Ringwald was everywhere. But when she turned down roles like Pretty Woman, her career took a quieter turn. She moved to France, worked on indie films, and wrote books. In recent years, she's appeared in shows like Riverdale and even writes for The New Yorker. Anthony Michael Hall. He was the king of geeky 80s characters: Weird Science, The Breakfast Club, and 16 Candles. But after his teen roles, Anthony Michael Hall struggled to break out of the nerdy stereotype. He took a break, then came back in shows like The Dead Zone, and even had a role in The Dark Knight. Though not a household name anymore, he's still acting and has found his niche in more serious roles. Kelly LeBrock. She was the fantasy girl of the 80s in Weird Science and The Woman in Red, with her glamorous looks and British accent. But after marrying Steven Seagal and stepping away from Hollywood, Kelly mostly vanished from big films. She focused on raising her kids and living a quieter life. In recent years, she's done a few reality shows and small indie projects, but nothing like her peak 80s fame. So, while these stars may not be everywhere today, they still hold a special place in the hearts of anyone who grew up loving 80s movies. Some chose quieter lives, others reinvented themselves, and a few are making subtle comebacks. Which one do you remember most? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more nostalgic throwbacks like this.